Welcome to Yorktown Live, and we are standing over the road from the famous coffee shop here in Yorktown, and I've actually got coffee. So yeah. Anyway,
you didn't get tea this time.
Yeah.
You decided to get coffee.
I do actually like coffee. You know, I haven't got anything against tea, you know, or coffee. Anyway, so yeah, here we are. So a little plug for the coffee shop. So if you're in Yorktown, come and visit these guys. They do amazing coffee.
It's the Jack Bay Coffee Roast.
And if you're interested in what we're sipping, we're actually sipping an 18th century sipping jug, which is quite good.
Oh, it is very, very good. You might actually turn me into a coffee fan after this. Right, so what we're going to do, guys, is we're going to walk up through a little bit of the historic part of Yorktown, and we're going to show you some really interesting stuff on the way. And Tim and Tyler are going to, you know, talk about some of it.
And behind the camera today, we actually have somebody working the camera for once. I wanted to give a shout out to Marina. So thank you for helping us today with all of our videos. Guys, give her some love on the page. Tell her thank you for helping today, because we wouldn't again be able to do it without her. So thank you for that. Are you guys ready?
Let's take you on a tour of Yorktown.
I think it's a good idea.
So this is, you know, an important spot, isn't it? So tell us a little bit about the spot.
So this was the site of Cox's house. He was in Boulder, ran property in the area. Inns in the 18th century weren't like hotels exactly. They had places to stay, but you put, you know, 6, 10 people in rooms, 4 or 5 people sharing a bed. So you're not trying to stay there for long. It's just a place to stop over as you travel. So this was the site of one of them. The house across the street where coffee shop is also original to the period. That's Old Biggs' house. He was a merchant in Yorktown. And as you look up the road, let's walk up. Yeah. So this walled property here. On the other side of this wall are the gardens of the Thomas Nelson Senior House. He was an influential merchant politician in Yorktown. His son Thomas Nelson Jr. took over the house, which was built in 1730. He became governor of Virginia. He was during the siege of Yorktown, 1781. And he actually directed, he had 2 houses, one further up in town. He directed American and French artillery to fire on his own house. And legend says that he gave a bet of 5 guineas to the first person who could score a visible hit on his own house.
And if I'm not mistaken, as we're coming up on the house, there should be some reflection of the battle damage, whether it's been placed there or some of the pockmarks just from the damage.
Yeah, so
yes.
On the way down to the coffee shop, they did show me this cool couple of houses, some damage from the battle. So we're going to go around and look at the cannonball.
And I only know all of this because Tim was so gracious to take me down here earlier this year.
Yeah, I've been here a time or
Just a time.
And again, guys, this is my first visit to Yorktown, so I've never been here before. I'm not great with the Revolutionary War for obvious reasons, because, you know, I'm still sulking about it.
Oh, we can't wait to get you to surrender field today.
Unfortunately, I'm outnumbered. It's 3 against 1, so I've just got to do what they tell me. You know? But so tell us about these 2 houses then, Tim. And let's start with this one.
This larger house is the Thomas Nelson Senior House, built 1730, as I mentioned. You can see in the wall, there's several other places where there aren't cannonballs, and the cannonballs were placed here, just showing, you know, that
Do you
they're
want to
there.
go up a bit closer?
Yeah, but the damage, the holes that the balls are placed in, are where cannonballs hit. You have another one right up there. Another one right down here at the base, and then the big one at the top, what we call the gable. It's actually inside. The Park Service runs this. They give tours. It's decorated in 18th century fashion, though none of the artifacts or items in the house belong to the Nelsons.
Okay.
But in the private residence just past, there's another one where they've placed a cannonball in battle damage.
Can I just bring something in just quickly?
Sure.
So where are we in relation to the positions of the armies then at this point?
We are
here in
inside.
Yorktown?
We are inside the British lines.
Right. So are the Americans and the French Show you in that direction over there,
Yes.
firing into the
About
town.
half a mile behind the camera,
Okay.
in all directions.
Cool. Let's carry on a little bit further down the road then. We're actually going to go to a monument, but there's still a few more bits along the way. And you was telling me on the way up about this little road down here for a minute. And quite cool.
They call it, it doesn't look big. Names are sometimes more lofty than the locations themselves. There in front of us is called the Great Ravine or Great Valley. So in the 18th century, coming off of the road, you can kind of see how it would pass past the sign and then come down the gradual slope and then wound its way through. This was the major thoroughfare coming from inside of town. There's another road a few hundred yards up that runs from the vicinity of the current Park Visitor Center down to the water line. They call that Tobacco Road, and that's how they got crops, largely tobacco, down to the wharves. Now, when the interesting fact that when the city was plotted, the wharves, the area down by the river, which you can see through the trees there, that was not actually part of Yorktown until the 19th century.
Really?
Yorktown itself ended here at the bluff line, basically.
Again, what are they bringing up through here?
Well, this is just how people, because everyone who worked down there, most of them lived up here, so they'd go down there. They could bring carts, supplies, other things, because other, merchants would take their wagons and carts down to the wharves to get their wares for sale back up to their shops here in town.
And again, up that river you can get big boats up that river, yeah?
Yes,
Big ships.
it's deep navigation.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
during the battle, the British had a handful of ships that were never able to get their fleet through the French cordon that blocked the Chesapeake Bay. But the French also sailed a couple men of war above Yorktown up in that direction to ensure that no supplies were able to come from inland.
Sure. Another interesting house.
Yep, the Diggs House, built 1760, another merchant, complete with corn crib and other outbuildings. Kitchen, 18th century kitchens are almost always separate buildings.
That's right.
Big
So which one's
reason.
the kitchen, sorry?
The kitchen would be that one in the back.
So what is this?
Corn crib.
That's a
Right.
corn crib.
This is the corn crib. That's the chicken coop. That would likely be an outbuilding.
Yeah.
But back then they're using chamber pots primarily, so they're dumping it out the window.
Like you do.
Like you do.
Yeah, it was a different smell back then.
Like you do.
Definitely a different
Is that it, Darren?
It is, yeah.
Like you do.
So one of the reasons why we're walking up this street is there's this huge monument, and I think it's something. I think it's called the Victory Monument. Or
I
something
think
like
you're
that.
right.
It is sorry, I've got something stuck in my throat.
Yeah.
Sorry. You carry on.
Go ahead. Hold on, we have some maintenance going on.
Yeah.
They're preparing it for Darren to see it in such a pristine condition, of course.
And also, guys, if you want to, you can actually stay on the battlefield itself, or in Yorktown at these great B&Bs that are along here.
Well, Hornsby House.
Shortly after the war, they knew they wanted to put something in Yorktown to commemorate it. It's a rather big event. The Siege of Yorktown, the victory here, essentially seals American independence. There's no major, large-scale combat action against British forces for the remaining 2 years of the war. But it's also a friendship monument, and that's often forgotten. French contribution to this campaign really made it possible, you know, keeping away the British fleet. The British fleet under Admiral de Grasse sealed the mouth of the Chesapeake Bay and the York River, preventing British reinforcements from getting here. Land army, about 7,000 or so men under General Rochambeau, aided the Continental Army and provided much of the eastern side of the encirclement here at Yorktown, so it's really a big deal. But the monument was actually constructed in the 19th century and completed during the Chester Arthur administration. It's a large focal point. You can maybe notice at the top there's a lightning rod. This has been damaged numerous times by lightning strikes.
That's the British getting their own back.
Something like that. Yeah. And during the so this has always kind of been a focal point of Yorktown during the you know, earlier in the summer when it isn't quite as hot. You know, about a month ago, so on 4th of July, they'll have a big thing, and in my opinion, one of my favorite fireworks displays in the whole country takes place. You know, they'll have fireworks barges out in the river. Nice. They'll have the Air Force band from Langley Air Force Base come play patriotic music from the base of the monument. So it's pretty cool. Does that cover your questions?
Yes, and guys, real quick, just to jump in, we do see your comments. We thank you guys so much for watching and tuning in there. I hope everybody's having a good morning so far. Again, this is Yorktown Live here with the Unfiltered Historian. We have Daz, Tim, and myself, and Marina behind the camera. We want to thank you guys so much for participating, and just as a reminder, we can continue. I just saw quite a few comments coming in, so I wanted people to know that we're not just, you know, ignoring the comments. We have a lot going on with everything today. So
yeah, and hopefully you can hear us all right as well.
Yeah, hopefully sound is good.
But we're going to finish the first video here, and you will see us again on the battlefield a little bit later
on. If you want to walk them, we can show them the river.
Okay, let's walk around and you can get a great view of the river.
Like I said, we'll close out with a view of the York.
And so this is the York River, yeah?
Well, if you want to keep them going, we can walk circle, go down that road, and then go back up this back road.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah, we can do that.
Yeah. I don't know how well the reception will hold off.
Well, you know what? That's the name of the game, I guess.
So it gives the total count of items surrendered. A little over 7,000 British surrendered here, 200 plus cannon. So they were bragging it up a little bit.
Oh, we're good sound. All right, so thank you guys for the sound comment. We are good sound, boys. Yep.
Again, if you take a look at the monument, I mentioned that it was a friendship monument, that direct reference to the treaty conducted between the U.S. and the government of King Louis.
And that was in France, yes?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, yeah. No, I thought you were talking about the British one in Paris, the treaty.
Right.
Sorry, I was getting confused.
And then a couple waysides. This lists the men known to have been killed at Yorktown, Americans from throughout the colonies. So interesting monument. Then there's another tablet, I think, to the French on the other side. And you'll notice one interesting name. Right here you have John Parke Custis. It says aide to Washington. That's Martha Washington's grandson. Or, sorry, Martha Washington's son. He dies of disease during the campaign here.
Okay.
So. Close as we're going to get, the view will get more restricted moving down, but if you look across the river, it's called the Coleman Bridge right there. On the other side of the river is Gloucester Point. The town of Gloucester Courthouse, which is the county seat, is about 15 miles in that direction. The British also had a force on that side, at the time commanded by Bannister Tarleton, who was not nearly as big a villain as the movie The Patriot made him out to be, even though they changed the name. Everyone knew that
with my favourite actor, Mel Gibson.
Yep.
Really love that guy.
That didn't seem genuine.
So,
Well, he always does everything that hates the British, don't he?
so, and then out, if you look off to this direction to our east, out in the distance is the mouth of the York and the beginning of the Chesapeake Bay. So as we look out there, you're looking into Chesapeake Bay. So pretty interesting. You can see why Yorktown was placed here. It's a deep water port, but sheltered from some of the elements. The hurricanes, we get them here.
Yeah.
But we're significantly inland because up the bay and then in from the mouth of the river.
Can I just ask you about the residents of Yorktown during the siege? So how are they, firstly, are they loyalists or are they, Americans?
They're mostly all patriots.
Patriots, sorry. And what's their feeling about having the British here in town and on the outskirts of town?
They're not thrilled. Obviously, I mean, throughout the colonies, there'd been British soldiers occupying towns. It wouldn't have been unfamiliar to see British troops in the area. Williamsburg's only about 15 miles away, and there were garrisons there periodically. But they knew that by the British being here, the chances of their town becoming impacted, violently went up, and that actually ended up being the case. Yorktown was essentially leveled. During the height of the siege, and we'll talk about it again later, I'm sure.
So would they be hiding in their basements, things like that during the bombardment?
There actually aren't many basements here, given the water table.
So they've got nowhere to hide then, really.
So, I mean, they'd have cellars, some cellars, but a lot of them took shelter below the cliffs.
Oh, okay.
To include the senior British leadership set up there. There's a cave, they call it Cornwallis's Cave. There's virtually no evidence that he actually ever was in it. I think we'll be walking by. But yeah, if we want to try to walk down there.
And we have to switch phones soon just so we can get batteries going. So if you guys see us switching in the middle of the live, it's because we had to switch batteries.
And I've got a better signal now as well.
Good. But, I'm sorry, I stopped you.
Yeah, so if you're just joining us, we're in Yorktown.
We all have to
Victory Monument. Sorry, that's stuck in the throat.
again. Yeah,
He's
keep talking about this monument.
stuck.
I think you need to get over it.
Yeah, I need to get over it, don't I? And just accept that the tea got chucked in the Rappahannock. Sorry, the
Boston Harbor. We can chuck in the Rappahannock for you though if you want us to.
But would it improve the colour? That's the deal.
No, Rappahannock already looks like it's got looking 102 on it. Consistency is almost there.
Yeah.
Too, not a fun place to swim.
And again, I always say this on most of my videos. I encourage people to come out, get in the car, and come and visit these places. Because they're important to your history and to everything. So come and support these, sites. And especially when the weather's as nice as this.
Feels 1,000 degrees cooler, dude.
Wait till you feel it on the road. Better? That's why I didn't know.
Sorry, you're catching me snapping as I go along because I've got to have some pictures to put up on the page at some point. So Tim, just quickly tell us about the trolley stops.
Tyler.
Trolley stops.
Not much to tell really. Yorktown in the 90s started really, well, they've always been big on tourism. But the trolley system was impacted because people were interested in the town. Not just the siege, but, looking at the old buildings.
There's a lot of history here, yeah. And because Fredericksburg has a similar type thing, doesn't it?
Yes. Yeah. So for the exact same reason, if you are familiar with the trolley tours in Fredericksburg, they do them here. In Yorktown, Yorktown knows 1/8 the size of Fredericksburg downtown area. Yeah.
And at the moment,
Coincidentally, it's named Water Street. Yes. Taking over for a second.
and just look at that view, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, no kidding.
Just amazing.
Look at that. Look at that.
Wow.
There's a sailboat out there, Darren, to your left.
Oh wow.
Ready? Thank you, thank you.
Nice.
So there's a relatively famous picture of, I think we actually got to go across. It's taken from this vicinity. Actually, it's taken from right here, the top of this hill, looking towards that hill, of a Union supply depot during the Civil War.
Oh wow.
Oh, this is it.
The
Yeah.
photographer was likely located on this little hill right here, looking up towards that direction, because that building just to the left is in the photo.
We'll see that in a minute. Oh wow. Oh, we're good. Oh, we're going this way. Fair enough.
So yeah,
A little bit of a beach down here.
this is the park. You got the Yorktown Beach this direction, a hotel, a pub. So obviously today, more people hanging out on beaches than they did in past centuries.
Yeah, but if you've seen their swimwear back then, it was probably hard to get on, get off.
But they have other, you can get boat excursions. A lot of people, there's a marina. You can, there's a fishing charter called the Miss Yorktown, ironically. You can go out and catch croaker, flounder, dogfish, out towards the mouth of the bay. So if you're interested in a weekend, there's more to do than just the historic sites. Yeah.
All right. So we continue this way?
Yep, we can go that way, then head back up towards the visitor center if y'all want.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We may not.
Guys, on the live, I hate to have to do this, but we do our kind of trying to preserve a little bit of battery here on both phones. So we're going to pick up again at our next location. We're going to go ahead and finish our walk through Tobacco Road. And if we can get service on another phone, we'll go ahead and go live again. But as of right now, we do have to cut just to preserve some battery so we can show you stuff throughout the day. Tim, thank you so much for the narration of downtown Yorktown, if that's what you'll call it, or the town proper of Yorktown. Very informative, and
really
we
good.
get to finish on a beach for a minute, so that's kind of cool. I wish this was a chair. I
it
really
is
feel like I'm at
amazing.
the beach because I've got something on my
I do
back.
feel like that I'm down in Folkestone right now.
It's
you know,
it's almost like a vacation
sit on
feeling.
the beach and build a sandcastle in a minute. Put my shorts back on, get the deck
Yeah, 'cause
chairs
he
out,
changed into
have an
this.
ice cream.
There you go. Instead we have Java cups, or what is it, this 18th century
Sipping Java,
That's right.
which is coffee and hot chocolate.
Just
Coffee
as we
and hot
finish
chocolate.
the live stream, I will say I think you've converted me to coffee
And hot chocolate. There's hot chocolate in here.
and hot chocolate.
There you go. Folks over there, thank you so much for supporting the Unfiltered Historian, and we will see you on the next one.